Hello, strangers. So, I will talk today and I will show you how to run a nonlinear mediation in SPSS. First, you have to install MEDCURVE, which is an extension of SPSS. You find it on the site of Andrew Hayes. Okay, there are many extensions. Okay, here it is, and you can download it from here. Good. In my database, I have 3 variables: the level of task, anxiety, and cognitive complexity. I made the level of task, the level of task structure, an ordinal variable. I suppose that a task could be very structured, moderate structured, and unstructured. And I suppose that when we have a very structured task, we have a low level of anxiety because we don't have for what to be anxious. And our cognitive complexity is also low too, because we don't have to do complex things, we don't have to to do things that need a very complex cognitive processing. Okay. Then I suppose that when we have a moderate, wait a minute, when we have a moderate level of task structure, so the task is not very structured, but the task is not unstructured, we will have a low to moderate level of anxiety, and we will have a good performance because our cognitive complexity will be higher than in very structured task. And I also suppose that when we have a unstructured task, so we know what do we have to do, we know anything we don't know anything about the task, then our anxiety will be high, very high, will be extremely high, and then we won't think so much because our attention field will be narrower, so our cognitive complexity will be low. We can then say that here we have a curvilinear relationship, an inverted U-shaped relationship between the level of the task structure and cognitive complexity. When the task is very structured or unstructured, cognitive complexity is low. When the task is moderate structured, cognitive complexity will be higher. And we have a linear relationship between the level of the task structure and anxiety, because when the level of the task structure is very structured, anxiety is low, When it is medium structure, anxiety increases, and when it is very unstructured, anxiety increases more. And the relationship between anxiety and cognitive complexity is non-linear, like this, because when we have little anxiety or too more anxiety, cognitive complexity will be low. But when we have a moderate level of anxiety, cognitive complexity will be higher. So let's run the analysis and let's see what we obtain. We go to regression. I have installed MEDCURVE here. Let's reset it. So this is cognitive complexity, our dependent variable, we put it here. Anxiety, our mediator, and task structure, our independent variable. Of course, we can have covariates. We will put covariates here. Okay. Number of resamples. It is usually 5,000. And I have to set my relationships. This is what I had explained earlier. The relationship between the independent variable and the mediator is linear. Here it is. So I will let it like it is here. The relationship between mediator and dependent variable is nonlinear. Anxiety and cognitive complexity is the mediator. Okay. Nonlinear or quadratic. And the relationship between the independent variable and the dependent variable is also quadratic. The level of task structure and cognitive complexity. Okay. Okay. And now we wait. Come on. Life can be hard sometimes. Please. What's going on? Is it too complex for you? Ah, okay, here it is. So, we have here the variables, dependent, independent, and mediator. Okay, we can see here that the model of M is significant. If we look at the model summary, we see here that our model, our mediation model is significant too. Here we have the relationship between the independent variable when it isn't made a quadratic effect. The relationship between the independent variable when it is made its product, a quadratic effect. The relationship between the simple mediator and the dependent variable, and the relationship between the quadratic effect of the mediator and the dependent variable. What can we see here is that all relationships are significant. Of course, this is an ideal result. Okay, but we are interested especially in the instantaneous indirect effects, or theta, when the independent variable has different levels. When the independent variable has a small value, a medium value, and a higher value above a medium value. How is the mediation when x has these values, these three values? And we can see here theta is the instantaneous indirect effect, and we are interested now in the confidence intervals. So we see that at small values of x, when the task is very structured, the interval, the lower interval confidence and the upper interval confidence are both positive. The interval doesn't contain zero, so the result is significant. When the task is very structured, the anxiety is a mediator between the levels of structure and cognitive complexity. When the task is moderate structure, both lower and upper confidence intervals are negative, and it doesn't contain zero, so the result is significant too. When, wait a minute, sorry. When the task is unstructured, the uppercase and lower, the upper confidence interval and lower confidence interval are both negative, and the result is significant too, because it doesn't contain zero. So when both intervals are positive, for example 0.22 and 4.3, they doesn't contain zero. Zero is here. The result is significant. When the Lower confidence interval and upper confidence interval are both negative. They don't contain zero, so the result is significant too. But if we had the lower confidence interval here and the upper confidence interval here, fuck, okay, it's okay. It does contain zero, and the result would not be significant. This is how we interpret the result. So this was the nonlinear mediation. Of course, not for all people this mediation is true, because some people love the unstructured task and they don't get anxious, and their cognitive complexity will be high. But when we suppose that for different population this mediation won't be true, then we talk about a moderated mediation. I will show you moderated mediation in another video. Meanwhile, if you have questions or observations, you can write to me to this address. Thank you, and I hope it was useful for you. Have a nice day, strangers.